broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
A champion, keep your story, bruh.
That's right. We are back. The Ultimate Fighter is back.
Yes, it is.
Exciting times. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Ultimate Fighter After Show. I'm Jared Gilkerson, alongside Suri Serano.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here.
We have a couple of special guests today. We've got first fighter on the far left here, Erick Gonzalez, and Ian Harris, coach.
Indeed.
Guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
This is great.
So happy you guys are here.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
It's been since December, so we've waited a few months now for the 21st season.
Yep.
The premiere was last night.
Yep.
This is exciting.
It is extremely exciting. I mean, I'm happy about it, and I don't know, we have a lot to talk about because it's a totally new format.
Brand new. Last year they made a leap and had the all-female cast, and now this year they decided to hit just the gym. They want a gym versus gym rivalry. Right. As we know, the owners, we could jump right into it, Dan Lambert and Glenn Robinson, hate each other.
Well, yeah, American Top Team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Versus the Black Zillions. I know that Dana White wanted these teams to come together because there's a lot of drama there, which makes for good reality television. Yeah, I mean, you know, let's talk about those guys, right? What do we think? What really went down? Let's start there.
Well, a lot of it's hearsay, but we know that Dan Lambert's been around for years. I mean, he built American Top Team, you know, from the ground up. That's his big talking point to Glenn. He will argue that Glenn poached some of his fighters to come to his gym. Glenn doesn't really have any background in UFC. He was a fan. I think he trained at the gym. His wife trained at the gym. He was around. Then he got to know a few of the fighters. Dan will say that he did things a little unethically, stole some of his fighters, and Glenn has a lot of money. He had his own business, had $100 million in the bank, so he threw on his money and signed fighters. Now, to me, that's okay. It's business. That's how business is done. Dan is saying there's an ethical way to do it. What do you think about the way that Glenn has been just signing? I mean, I've heard these guys are a little angry at ATT, so isn't it their prerogative to leave if they like?
Well, God, there's so much where do we begin? But I just want to say this. When people leave and contracts are broken or they're not there, I mean, there's such a gray area when it comes to those kinds of things, you know, and it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, and only two people really know what kind of really went on, right? I mean, there's so many different stories. What do you think, Ian, about...
Well, I'm sure it's... Like there's always two sides to every story, right?
Right.
I think that they're both right in the sense that it's okay. I mean, if you're going to start your own gym and you have relationships and you have friends and they're leaving already and they want to go to a new gym and you start it, that's totally fine. However, Dan is correct in the sense that, I mean, I guess it's a little weird to start a gym when that's not what you do. You know what I mean? It's okay if it's your business and you start it and you bring in coaches, which is what he did. But this is a very tight-knit sport, and it's a very organic sport. So most people who have gyms or who have fighters, they trained them. They've been training their whole lives. They fight. It's a very big thing to, you know, if you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, you want to be, you know, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. So it's like if you just start up a Jiu-Jitsu gym and you've never done Jiu-Jitsu and you hire some black belt and you're the coach, it's kind of like... Well, he's the coach. You're just the money guy. So I get where there's that animosity where it's like, well, you know, you're just a guy with the money who threw money at people, but that is a business. So correct. It's like managing. You can manage fighters and have nothing to do with fighting.
True.
The weird thing is that he's kind of the front man, like he's the coach, and he's the, you see him in the corner or whatever, and it's kind of like, well, you have nothing to do. Like, what are you going to do there? Really, what are you going to do? Yes, do stuff. I mean, you don't know what you're doing. So I think there's something weird about that. But yeah, I mean, if they were going to go somewhere else anyway, so he backed him. Exactly. I don't think that's a big deal.
If I want to get a fighter's opinion, if you belong to a gym, but you're not, I mean, it seems to me that a lot of these guys are just more loyal. Handshake, hey, I like you, like me, let's have a business relationship. But there's no real contract. As a fighter, if you're maybe a little uneasy about how things are going at the gym, and maybe you don't like the way that the training methods, and you want to switch some things up, what's stopping you from signing with someone else that maybe gives you a lot of money?
Well, I do feel that there's like a correct way to step out of a gym, especially if you've been there for a while. There's a way to go at it, especially when talking to coaches, or even if it's your own decision of wanting to leave, there's a right way to do it. So if you just go up and leave, that doesn't really look good on your part, because I've already spent time there, getting to know the people there, you built relationships there. But if you're just doing it for the money's sake, then you just leave. I mean, if that's what they're looking for, then they're gonna go with the money. But if you have built that type of relationship with the gym or something, then there's definitely a way to do it, as opposed to just getting up and leaving, and then all of a sudden there's this tension between the coaches and the owner, or whoever's involved in the whole act.
I think it also depends too. There is, like Eric said, there's a way to go about it, because there's also a when you've come up with somebody, it's very, in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world especially, which is where ATT comes from. They come from originally Brazilian top team, and then they branched off, so they kind of did the same thing. But if you started, I mean, I don't know how many of those the people that left started with Liborio, who's the main guy there. Ricardo Liborio is the main guy at American Top Team. If you, or Dan Lambert, but if you started there, you started as a white belt or a blue belt, or an amateur fighter, and you built up and you're in the UFC and you did all your work through there, and then you just up and leave, that doesn't, I don't know if that looks good anywhere, but definitely in the fight world, that's a big no-no. I mean, at the least you have to go and say, hey, I mean, I get if you're on a slide, you've lost 5 in a row, you're not getting the looks you want, like it happened to Greg Jackson's, which was Rashad's beef, is that, hey, I'm up for the title, and now you're bringing in John Jones and these other 205ers that I may have to fight. Diego Sanchez, when he left because GSP was there, and they brought in GSP, and it's like, wait a second, I'm one of the top contenders at 170. Now you're bringing in the champion. So what does that mean? That I don't get a shot? I get that. Then you go to that coach and you say, what's the deal here? And if the coach says, sorry, I got to do it, well, then you can leave. But if you just up and leave for no reason, or some kind of money or something, to me, loyalty is a big thing. Yeah. And I think that says something about your character, at least.
Those are great points. I kind of look at the UFC as it's been around for a while, but being in such a global, now it's, the last 10 years, it's just been a huge explosion. And I look at it as a bigger sport now. The NFL started really low, and there was more loyalty. But as you get to be more and more teams, more and more contenders, more and more television time, there's going to be more people that come forward that have nothing to do with the sport. And the sport may have to evolve in some way. I look at Dan Lambert as almost like this old school kind of thinker, and he may have to evolve with the times, because there's going to be plenty of money thrown at his fighters' pockets.
Or he may not. He could stick to doing what he's doing, and he's going to be still successful and where he's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there's something wrong too with. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the like a guy like Glenn. I think that's great for the sport. I mean, look at, like you said, with football. Do any of the owners of any football teams, did they ever play football?
Of course not. Unless they're like 80 or older, then most of them didn't at this point.
The coaches did, and that's and usually, and that's great. But so I get it. It's like, okay, if you want to come in, if you're some mega rich person, you love the sport, and you want to come in and own a gym and do that and hire coaches, that's great for someone like me. It's like, I actually get paid now? Something other than 10% of 30 people who make $800 a year? Like, is that what, which is tough unless you're ATT and you got 40 people in the UFC. But if you don't, it's hard for all of us to make money. If you have somebody who can back that and fund that and help build a team and recruit and do all that sort of stuff, it's great for everybody.
Yeah, it creates a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely, but I think where he came at it was like, I'm going to start my own team. Almost like he came at it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? He came from within and poached people in a sense and left and used his money to do that. That's different than saying, hey, I'm a rich guy and I'm going to start a gym.
But he is saying that, there were some people that were unhappy and looking for other help and stuff. It wasn't like he was looking to go poach people. That's my understanding from what he's saying.
Yeah, and that's what. And Glenn is saying, hey, these guys are unhappy. They came to me.
Right.
There's probably a little bit of both. If I were to guess, allegedly, it's probably a little bit of both sides. Well, I want to get both of your guys' opinions on. Dan seems so hard-headed on if you want to become an owner and a / coach, you have to put in the time. I put in such and such years. You just jumped in. He seems a little hard-headed, and he seems to be missing the fact that not everyone has to go through the pains, the growing pains.
Right.
This guy built his own business, so he probably went through growing pains there. Oh, well, now he threw his money into the UFC. He's getting some fighters, and I think Dan looks a little hard-headed and a little short-sighted on what he's doing. Eric, what do you think about Dan's opinion of Glenn?
I think he's just a little bit more on the, I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? He's kind of more mad at the point that he's able to do it so fast, like he was saying, and it's taken him his whole life to get his fighters where they're at, as opposed to a guy that just came in and, like Ian saying, throw in that much amount of money because he has it. But it just kind of, I think the situation just got a little bit mixed up, maybe with him going to the gym and his wife going to the gym, and then all of a sudden fighters leaving, and then he opens up a gym, and then more of his fighters are going over there, so he's kind of just getting frustrated now that some of the guys that he's probably put a lot of time into just get out and leave.
There's also conflating two different points here. One is being an owner, and one is being a coach. Owning a gym, he's absolutely dead wrong. You don't need to put in any time to own a gym. That's like saying, hey, you bought a new car? What did you do to make that car? I bought a car. It doesn't really matter. But building fighters, that is one thing that I've heard people say just in general. Well, if he's getting credit for being this great coach, oh, look at the Black Zillions team. They're an amazing team. But are they, or are they just a group of people that joined together? Was anybody actually created from them? Is he a great coach? Is this a great system? We don't know, because they were already amazing when they got there. American Top Team built them from ground up. That's a big difference. Like when people say, oh, Greg Jackson, for a while people said, oh, Greg Jackson, all these champions are going there. GSP's going there. That's why it's great. But he didn't build anybody. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Diego Sanchez, John Jones, he did build people. He's a great coach. But there are places where, like the Yankees, when people say they bought all these people. Now again, baseball is different. You don't actually coach people from Little League to the World Series.
It happens in other sports. You make excellent points. But, even I come from the world of gymnastics, totally different world. But, there are coaches that raise their champions from the ground up. And then Gabby Douglas is an example, gold medalist, switched gyms just this last year.
Right.
Left her longtime coach that groomed her,
right.
And made her a champion. And now she's with a no-name coach.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Right.
I think kind of he's got to kind of move on. He's wasting a lot of energy focused on that one man when you can focus it on your team.
No, I absolutely agree. But I just say I think at the same time he's right. He's wrong in that sense, but he's also right in the sense that, well, I come across it all the time where there's a gym where it's like, oh, this is this great gym, and all these people want to go to this gym, and I go, you're going to go to that gym this because it's got a name, but nobody there's going to pay attention to you. First of all, you're a nobody. Second of all, there's nobody there teaching. It's just, there's lots of those gyms nowadays where it's like all these great fighters got together, and it's like, oh, all these big UFC fighters, they're all getting together, and that's this great gym to go to. If you're just starting out, it's a horrible place for you to go. But people are attracted to the, it's the star
big
thing.
Names.
It's the star thing. It's like, oh, look, I got a picture with so-and-so. It's like, that doesn't do you any good in the fight. So I think, on one hand, they're correct on that, where it's like, I think that's what he's kind of stuck on, is that's not a real gym that was built from the ground up, and this guy's taking credit for all these fighters. But I don't know that Glenn's really doing that. Is he really trying to take credit for him? I think it's two different issues that they're kind of arguing about.
Right.
Yeah, And there's a lot of other behind the scenes things. I mean, they're bringing up each other's wives and ex-wives on the.
It was ugly last night on
post
Tough
show.
Talk.
Yeah.
It was ugly. I was like, are you all 13-year-old girls right now?
That's right.
What's happening? Like, wow. I thought they were going to go at each other physically.
Well, this is what they want us talking about.
Well,
and
right.
This
It's
is
a
the whole
reality
rivalry,
show.
and we move into now. Okay, now we know who hates each other. So how's the show going to work? I mean, it's brand new. It's not
Right.
just about winning a fight or two.
A lot of money on the line, $500,000.
I know. It's crazy. And
Right.
you got 12 fights. So the point system, I wrote it down here, this integral point system. So you have the
I don't
first
get.
four the first 4 fights are worth 25 points each.
Right.
The next 4 are worth 50 points each, and the last 4 are worth 100 points each. And then they have a final fight in the finale, and to be eligible, you have to have fought twice in the regular season. So they're considering those 12 fights the regular season. This is where it gets.
Do the individuals get points or the team gets points?
team.
The team.
Team.
So 18.
And then the
So
team,
how do you decide who gets to be in the finals?
you have to have fought twice.
Yeah,
right?
and the coaches, just like in last night's pilot, they get together and say, after these 12 fights,
Strategy.
who do we want in the finale? Well, they have to at least fought twice. So you have to strategize before you even get there. You have to think someone at least has to put 2 fights in that we want in the finale.
But so technically, you could have somebody who's got 2 fights. You could have a couple of people, and the coaches are just choosing somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about strategy.
That kind of sucks if you're the other guy. I won 2 fights too. And they're like, sorry, buddy, we like him better.
Well, it's a cool aspect to the show because it's almost like a fantasy draft. All the coaches get into the room and they have to kind of decide. I like such and such, or I like him, and you have to. And the whole strategy is the other team doesn't know who you've chosen until one day before a fight. So you choose your fighter 5 days before the fight,
Yeah.
and then you prepare for 4 days without knowing who you're fighting. And I kind of wanted to ask you, as a fighter, if you don't know who you're fighting for a week's worth of, you're in fight shape, you're ready to roll, and then you're chosen to fight. You're going to fight in 5 days. How do you prepare for a fight, not knowing who your opponent is, and then one day before finally finding out who it is?
I guess we'll work on my weak points at most from what I know that are my weak points and that my weak points that my coach would point out. So then I'm ready for pretty much anything that would happen. So I'm still focusing on my strong points, but still working on my weaker points more as opposed to working on those significant, whether I'm good at striking. If I'm really good at striking, then I'll focus more on my wrestling, my jiu-jitsu, just so I'll be ready for anything. So you really want to, I think, I would prepare myself as just more of a mental thing. It's not so much worrying about who you're fighting. I think it's just mentally preparing yourself, because once you mentally prepare yourself, you're pretty much ready for anything. You're ready for, to go the distance, or you're ready to take it to the ground and finish it fast, or however you want to deal with it.
A friend of mine, Uriah Hall, who's a big, UFC star, he's always told me, anytime we talk about it, he doesn't prepare for his opponents, and he knows who they are. He doesn't study them. He doesn't watch the footage. I mean, his coaches wishes he would, but he doesn't. He just trains and is focused on him.
No, you know what though? As a coach, I'm kind of the other way. Most fighters, I don't really want them to be concerned with their fighter. That's for the coaches to do. There are some guys. There are a couple fighters I have that they will watch and they'll come back and they'll say, he does this, this, and this. I think I can do this and this, this, and I'll go, all right, good. Other people, they start worrying about. He'll attest to this. I'm always saying, I like to game plan. I'm all about game planning, which is some people think game plans are stupid. Some people think game plans are the only thing you should do. I'm all about game planning with the idea that it could probably go out the window at any given second. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is, I watch the other fighter. I decide where we're strongest, and then when we start talking about game plan, it's really, we don't worry about what they're going to do. We make them worry about what we're going to do. Now, what we're going to do, hopefully, I've been trying to make them focus on doing something that plays to our strength and plays against their weaknesses.
Right.
But it's not a matter of, this person's a wrestler, so let's not go to the ground. It's more, let's go after that person. Let's put them on the ground. Let's keep it on the feet. It's not so much a worry about them. It's worry about you. So if you go with that mentality, you can pretty much step in and hopefully fight anybody, with the mentality that I'm going to do what I do, and this is what I do. And I think a lot of people, they lose sight of that. And Krokop's a good example. They say when he fought Gonzaga the first time, he knocked out 1 million people with a left kick, and they said that don't know if it's true or not, but the last few, like 2 months before that fight, he just worked jiu-jitsu. He worked jiu-jitsu. And then he gets knocked out with a head kick by a jiu-jitsu guy because he wasn't focusing on the thing that got him to the prom, right? That's the thing. Like, this is what got him there. Stick to it. And if he would have just kept doing what he did for all of his other camps, he probably would have knocked him out. But instead, he's not going to get any better jiu-jitsu in 2 months to stop a guy like Gonzaga. There's no way that guy's that good. But he let what he's good at lapse. And his timing was off, and he got knocked out.
Well, another aspect that we kind of forgot to mention is that these guys are all living with each other in the same house. So I don't know if you'd be able to. It'd be hard for me if I knew I was fighting in a day or two to hide that, I'm the guy. Like, how are they not going to be able to read me that I'm the guy? And then I don't know.
They asked another guy or two to act like they were getting ready as well. So
but that would just be tough knowing. I don't know. Just being in the same house with your opponent or opponents.
It does change it up a lot.
Well, how would that be for you? I mean, they're literally waking up and they're making breakfast in the house, and
the guy's not eating. You're like, could it be him?
Yeah. I mean,
love it.
How would you, as a fighter, hide that for a week that you're not the one fighting? I'm sure your other guys would, kind of give you a nice little
space.
But I mean, I would just seem hard to do.
I really don't know how I would go about that, but I could definitely see myself just kind of hanging out more with the team to keep me more relaxed as opposed to being by myself and constantly think about who I'm fighting, who am I going to get it into with, and just focusing on, the good vibes of my teammates and putting that up on me. So then by the time fight day comes around, it doesn't matter who it is, I'm already, focused and mentally prepared.
But don't you think some guys are so narcissistic too? Some fighters, they're so about. No, I'm not kidding. They're so about like. I mean, I know guys that it's like you could tell them 2 seconds. Hey, you know what? I may have a fight for you on June 19th. I may have a fight for you. 2 seconds later, Twitter. I'm fighting June 19th. Yeah. It's just all about. Whoa, calm down, dude. We don't have anything set. So you could tell these guys 1,000 times. Don't say anything, and I would be willing to bet there's at least a few guys in the house that the second they find out, they're walking around going, "I'm fighting you."
Yeah.
Someone's gonna That's a good prediction. That's a good prediction for sure. I think that I like the aspect this season that you have your team. Like you said, you'd want to go be around your teammates. It takes a little bit of the pressure off, and you get that already in the house. Versus in all the past seasons, it's individuals and all for oneself, right? And at least when you have your teammate, you have a little bit of comfort there. I think I like that aspect of the season.
And these are real teammates, which is I mean, there was always a teammate thing, but it was somewhat of a. I mean, there's camaraderie, but they're real teammates, and they know that there's a good chance they could be fighting this person in the finals. Right. That's not going to happen here, and they are real teammates. So that definitely, I think they're going to push each other more, and they're going to be. There's going to be more camaraderie and more
bonding.
Yeah,
as a team.
Yeah, more unity and all that sort of stuff, which I don't think we see a little bit in the other seasons, but I don't think you haven't seen it like you would see in this season.
Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Well, as a coach, when you're looking at all those teammates, okay, you're a week out of the fight, and you have to look at 8 guys and say, what kind of guy do you want for that first fight? I mean, it's worth 25 points, but you get home gym advantage if your fighter wins. So there's a little bit of, I don't know if there's a comfortableness there as a fighter or not, or if you get more pumped up going on the road. To me, that would seem kind of fun, going on the road and winning. Maybe that's a different energy level. But as a coach, when you're given 8 guys, what are you looking for when you don't know who he's going to fight? Are you going to pick a well-rounded guy, or how would you go about that?
Well, I think that's a tough one, because I was thinking about the point system. It's like, it's it's like one of those game shows where it's like Double Jeopardy or whatever, where it's like, you go, I just answered 900 questions, and this guy can beat me with 1 because all he has to do is bet everything. And it's like, does it really matter who wins the first 4 fights? I mean, other than, and does the home thing really matter? Because all your teammates are going to be there regardless. Yep. How many more people are they going to bring into the gym? They're only like 2 miles away from each other, so it's not like they're flying across country. So does the home cage advantage thing really do you any good? Maybe not. I don't know that really helps that much.
I agree with you on that one. It's not that big of a deal, because you do have your whole team, and you've got to perform wherever you are.
Yeah, I think it's more about getting who's not going to take the most damage. But if you don't know who you're fighting,
I think it does create a little pressure when it's on the home cage, though, because you're defending your home. the place where you train, you're bred at with your teammates, where you're all constantly together every day, putting a lot of work into. So when you take a loss, I think at home would be a little bit more pressure, like, oh, I really let my team down.
So, the question is, I guess then you'd have to say, for me, would probably be who has more mental, who's going to break easier, and if it's at home, I would have to find out who's going to break, who's going to feel that pressure more.
Yeah.
Because if there's somebody every fighter is different, but the biggest thing is some fighters, most fighters, it's all about the mentality.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody who gets really nervous, then maybe I wouldn't let them fight at home.
Plus, you add all the lights and cameras and everything. So mentally, for an athlete, that's everything. How you can handle yourself. Like, as you said earlier, we were talking about, you said something about how whoever's the most patient tends to
I think
be
the
successful.
person who could be more patient as opposed to rushing into everything. Because if you look at a lot of the fighters that rushed into that first round, that first 30 seconds, usually would take a loss because they stuck to their game plan or whatever there was, but they rushed into it and they made mistakes in the process, as opposed to waiting for that patient fighter who's waiting and then timing everything.
That's a great point, and that kind of slides into, so you have these 8 guys on each side. If you're in the war room and when you watch the episodes last night, it's for everybody, what did you think of ATT going with Michael Graves, young kid, not a lot of experience, but they really liked his awkwardness and how he could do everything pretty well. And then the Blackzilians selecting Kamaru Usman, who had a big wrestling background, and you could tell from the beginning of the show they said he was a great leader. I could kind of see where the coaches were going with that team a little bit. But what did you think of the choices for each team?
But now they didn't know. Did the coaches know who the other side picked, or
No.
Not till the day before the fight when they have a weigh-in.
So it's not just the fighters; it's the coaches don't know either. See, that's a tough one, because if you don't know, because they were definitely looking like they were preparing, unless it was just the day before, for a wrestler, the ATT guys. So I was like, it looked like they were really preparing for that. So I thused they knew that they were facing
I can see
Usman.
Usman. You know what I mean? They were really. As a matter of fact, Graves actually used the thing that Robbie Lawler was showing him on the wall. He used the bridging on the face.
I saw that.
He used a couple different things, sprawling, that they were working on sprawling and going to the back. So I was surprised. I'm surprised to find out that they didn't know, because it looked like they were really preparing for a wrestler. But I kind of like. I actually think I thought he won, or I thought it should have at least gone to a third round. But I was going the other way with Graves, and I think that was a good choice, because he's kind of all around scrappy and he seemed really tough. Whereas Usman, to me, looked like he was nervous, and he was so desperate to get the takedown. And I think that could have ended really bad. He could have ran into a knee or an uppercut, something, because he was forcing the issue. So I don't know that they picked the right guy mentally, but I mean, he got the job done. He won. So, I guess I would be wrong in that case, but I actually thought Graves was a really good choice,
We're jumping right into it.
I know, I love it.
So, I mean, just to go to you, Suri, what did you think of the environment that they portrayed on TV with? I thought it was really cool how there were no announcers. It was just, the guys from the gym and a few coaches, and just raw. It was, a little bit with a little, like some camera angles that they were doing a little overproduced. But I thought,
mentioned that. You didn't really care for
you
some of
wouldn't
the
see that
angles.
during that many different. It just seems like TV a little bit that's going to. But I thought the Nat sound of just guys in the gym, not a crowd, just everyone's shouting strategy and hang on, and that was the coolest aspect. I thought I was immediately sucked in to the fight as a viewer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, watching so many past tough seasons and then watching this one, what I think I mentioned to you earlier as well is that I love that the teams are there and how loud it is, and they're really cheering for each other. You didn't have that. It was quiet on fights prior on tough seasons, right? I mean, it's just like some side is totally silent.
Yeah.
So that part is really exciting. It makes you you perk up.
Yeah.
Round 2, I was like, okay, we are in this.
Anxiety. I got anxiety.
Yeah, for me. What did you think? What did you think of it, Eric?
Oh, I definitely loved it. I didn't like that. I love that they didn't have the announcers, like you were saying too. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. You just in there and kind of observe yourself. You're the judge, and you don't have to really hear too much of a feedback up until the end. After the show. But I really liked that environment. It was super loud too. It wasn't quiet at all. It almost seemed like they were at a at a promotion or something.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people there.
Yeah, it's cool. I kind of wish, and I kind of hope what they do in the future, but I don't think they're going to change the format. But I wish, as getting home gym advantage, I wish no one else from the other gym was allowed to attend the fight.
What?
So I wish you were just surrounded by, because they're with the Black Zillion gym, so I
Yeah.
wish that you were just surrounded by all the Black Zillion fighters and coaches, but then it's just you, and then maybe of course, your guys in the corner.
Right.
But that would give it maybe a little bit more of a, hey, I'm in enemy territory here, instead of having your whole group with you.
Yeah.
I just think that would be a cool mix, because there's really not a huge gym advantage, in my opinion, on the gym advantage. I think they just kind of threw that in there. They weren't really thinking of how it would look on TV, and that's just kind of, it's a cage, They're in a cage. They're going to fight. They don't care where they are. But we'll break down the fight a little bit. So round one. So we have, of course, just to repeat, Michael Graves versus Kamaru Usman. Round one. What did you guys think? There was definitely more action, in my opinion, in the second round. But what did you guys think about round one?
I thought Graves. I know, and in the replay you could see that Usman landed some punches, but to me he looked like he was rushing for takedowns. He never secured anything, and he was trying to wrestle the whole time. I thought Graves won it because Graves was tagging him up. When he went to get him on the ground, he hit a beautiful switch, smashed his face into the cage. He stuffed many takedowns, and I thought he was taking it to Usman more on the feet and forcing Usman to go for the takedown. And so to me, even though he was controlled up against the cage a little bit more, that was kind of out of desperation, in my opinion. So I kind of thought it was close, but I edged it actually to Graves for that reason.
Eric?
I was actually the opposite. I was actually thinking that Kimura took that first round, but just by like a hair, not so much from, not too dominant, but it was a very close fight. But I think Kimura took it just because he was controlling him a little bit more, and that's probably what the judges saw, that he was controlling him. Even though he didn't get as many maybe strikes or maybe that technical, he still tried to go for more takedowns. Wasn't securing him, but definitely was getting at least halfway to that point to make Graves work his way back up.
Suri, what did you think?
Oh my
Round
gosh.
one.
Well, yeah, I am not the expert like these two gentlemen here next to me on either side of me, but I have been watching fights for a few years. I agreed with Eric when we were talking right before we started the show, and I mean, I really didn't know who was going to take it either way. The second round for me was Kamaru, like for sure. I thought he was really in serious trouble there for a second towards the end, but it was exciting. But I also I said this to you as well. I agree with Dana White, which we're going to get to, about how lackluster it was, and it wasn't full throttle, which you have to do. You're on a national television show, fighting, right?
Yeah.
Go for broke. This is your life. This is what you've blood, sweat, and tears every single day, right? A lot of fighters do not make any money, have no income, or very little, and this is your shot.
Well, see, that's what I felt about Kamaru. I felt like he was fighting not to lose. I actually felt that Graves was trying to a little. He was being a little bit more safe, but most of the dull moments were Kamaru or Usman, whenever you want, putting him up against the fence and kind of holding him, kind of going for takedowns. I kind of thought that Graves was trying to take it to him on the feet. But yeah, neither guy was really going for broke, but they definitely were fighting not to lose, and I think that's kind of goes into what I was saying about him looking anxious and nervous.
Yep.
Is that he just wanted to get to the next. He didn't want to lose a fight. That's kind of how I felt.
And you can't.
Kimura was definitely playing it really safe.
Really safe.
You could tell he was nervous.
Yeah.
And like we were saying, they both didn't have that killer instinct where, they wanted to kill each other, really finish the fight. They were playing it really safe. But Graves did Ian was saying that Graves did put a little bit more on that point where he looked like he wanted to knock him out, as opposed to Graves just wanting to control him, win the fight, and get the points.
I hope this is not something that we see throughout the season. That coming from two posh camps, so to speak, where they're not really going for broke. I hope that it changes.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure that there's, especially the deeper they get into it, there's probably going to be there probably will be a lot of
tension
and headbutting and animosity. So I think that will lead to better fights.
Yeah, I think it'll lead to guys that are just so contrasting styles that someone's going to get knocked out, someone's going to get beat in the first round. These guys, the pressure of being the first fight, not wanting. I mean, there's much more pressure on just not screwing up as it is winning.
Yeah, but again, I have to argue. Sorry,
we'll dive into it.
Yeah, being a professional athlete, this is your moment. You don't get that moment back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't get it back.
It's funny because I've got a good friend, and I haven't really asked him, but I have a good friend who's at American Top Team. His record's like, I don't even know, it's 20 something and 8, 29, 25 and 8. I don't know. He's really good. But he made it to the finals. He lost to Ben Askren I think he made it to the finals twice on Bellator. And he's fought in Japan. He's beaten all kinds of high-level guys. His name's Dan Hornbuckle. He's the most incredible. He's such an awesome personality. He's really tall. He's Native American. He wears this great mohawk, and he's all personality. Like you watch this guy, and you're like, he's fun when he every time you interview him, he's like really funny. He always starts crying, like he's so. And I'm like, no, because he's just really intense. And he's a good fighter. He's really good on the ground. He's like 6 foot something, 170. And he's at American Top Team, and I'm like, why is he not on this show? I mean, that's what I don't get. Like, he should be in the UFC to begin with.
Yeah.
And I'm watching these guys going, why is Dan Hornbuckle not on the show? Because that's one of these guys. Like, he's a guy that years ago where he was fighting in Bodog, and I remember this moment so well. He was fighting the guy, and he got kicked in the groin. And he's on the ground, like, and it was a pretty close, it was kind of close fight, but he got kicked in the groin. He's on the ground just, like, writhing in pain. And it's kind of the same thing where the set is, we're up in Vancouver, outside of Vancouver, and it's closed set, and it was taping for a show, and they would bust in some people for an audience. So there's maybe 300 people in this small little room, so you could hear everything, and there was like only invited people that were bust in to watch the show, right? And we're on TV, they're taping it, and he's there, and he's in pain, and dead silence, and you hear some guy go, "Doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger." And he goes, and it was a funny thing. He goes, he stops like in the pain. He goes, points at the guy, and he goes like, "Yes, that is correct." And he stands up, and they go fight, and he goes, "Ba ba 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 ba," and just TKOs the guy.
Oh my god!
And I was like, "What the crap?" It was like crazy. He just went after the guy, but it was just like this moment of. You thought he was done, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, switch. Okay, I'll forget about the pain. I'll go after it." And I'm like, that's the kind of guy that on this show, I don't know why American Top Team, and then it's the one thing that they can answer for me at some point. Why did you not put Dan Hornbuckle on the show?
Well, that'd be nice to know.
Yeah,
it also makes me think that this is a show. There's going to be more personalities that come through. It's just one episode in. So, I mean, hopefully there are. I don't know what was the guy's nickname? Creepy Steve Montgomery. I think he's got a cool. That's a great nickname.
Right.
But and then the best mullet in the game right now. But I think you're going to see more personalities come through. But we'll definitely lobby for your boy. Season 22.
What comes through is when you're put in a house.
Yeah.
And you're forced to live day and night with your enemies or frenemies or you know what I mean, whoever. You don't have TV, you don't have phones, you don't have all of that stuff. It creates a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And some people mentally can handle it, and some people, as we will see, cannot.
Well, I was going to see what Eric thought about, because I differ in opinion. Of course, Dana's going to try to push all his fighters to the max. Hey, this is your shot. Let's go. My attitude would be, and you can help me out. If my coaches
You're
have
trying
enough,
to get him on your side, and you know that we disagree on this.
If my coaches have enough confidence in me to pick me first, that means they're picking me over 7 other guys. I'm thinking down the road, they're going to pick me at least one more time, if not another 2 times. So I don't think it's bad to hedge your bets and not go for broke. And not show everything you have. I mean, you're going to be fighting every guy that's watching you. It's one of those guys. If you keep a little something to yourself, a little part of your game you don't want to show yet, think you can still win the fight. To me, maybe it was a little too close last night, but Kamaru got the job done, and he still maybe has something else to show. Maybe not. But I wouldn't want to show everything for the show. And there's rounds and rounds of fights. So what do you think as a fighter, maybe not showing everything in your arsenal from the beginning?
I actually would disagree with that.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind showing all my arsenal, so then it makes a statement to the other guys saying like, oh, like he means business. He's not here to just, go in there and try to win the fight. He's going in there winning the fight, dominating and showing, every aspect they have. Because you're going to go in there going with a different game plan once you know who it is. Even if it is a day or, half hour to prepare, you already know the type of fighter he is. So you can go in there, change your game plan. And since you're already mentally there, it shouldn't be hard to change it up.
1,000%, and with Eric, it's you don't again. You have this is your moment in front of Dana, in front of the UFC, in front of everybody, in front of millions of people. You don't hold back. You don't go to the Olympics and hold back.
Although I would say you don't hold back, but I also agree on some level that this is a competition. Losers go home, and they don't get anything. The winners get a contract. So for me,
the money.
I mean, I say this all the time. I have guys all the time go, hey, coach, give me a fight. I just want to stand in there and bang with this guy. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? You're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and that guy is just a kickboxer. Well, how about you go in there and get a win? Take him down, submit him, do it. Why try to be... Every time the guy goes, he's the best in the world at this, and he doesn't think I can hang with him. I'm going to show him I can hang with him. That guy always loses because you can't hang with that. So do what you do for sure. And you don't need to be boring, and you need to put it on the line. You need to show them that you want to be there. But at the same time, your goal is to win. Period. Your goal is to, to make it to the next level. And I don't know if it's so much about showing your hand or not, but it's definitely about getting to the next level. And on top of that, fighting smart so that you don't take damage. You're there for 8 weeks. If you go in there and just get into a, Wanderlei Silva chin for chin. But even if you win, you're going home with a broken orbital and a nose that's over here and a cut. It's like, then you don't get to fight again.
Yeah.
So, playing it smart is smart strategy for winning the fight, but it isn't smart strategy for winning the hearts of the fans and the owner of the show. You got to somehow maybe win one and then go for broke on one. I don't know. There's got to be a way to mix it up.
And there's a way to play it smart, though, too. You could go in there, bang it out, however you want to put it, but you could still be smart about it. Bang it out, but be more technical as opposed to just going in there and banging it out, trying to knock them out. Going in there, taking your time with all your punches, your takedowns, and your defense, whatever it is you're doing, without hurting yourself.
But still fight to win.
Yeah, but still fight to win.
Not
but still
fight not to
statements.
lose. Right.
Yeah. Well, there was a little bit more action into the second round, as we saw. I thought it. I thought Mike had it with that choke. And so did these coaches. Oh, he's got it locked in. I'm like, nah, he doesn't have it locked in. But they were just wishful thinking. But I want to know everyone's opinion on round two. It was a little bit different than round one. Round one was a little more of a feel-out round. Round two, they got a little into it a little bit more. Thoughts, guys?
Round two, for sure, they got into just a little bit more. But in the first round, I think that Graves was putting it a little bit more technical-wise. And in the second round, he kind of just started going in there trying to hit him hard and losing that technical aspect that he had when he first got into that first round. And I think Kamara was playing it, was getting way more comfortable by the second round, and he kind of knew where he wanted to take him and how to finish it.
And he didn't, the first half, there was no, he tried, I was going by half. The first half, I thought, I remember thinking, all right, Graves isn't putting in the high numbers of strikes. Like you're saying, he was going more he was throwing ones and twos. He wasn't doing what he did in the first round, but he also stuffed a couple takedowns. So I'm like, okay, but Kamara was trying to get to the ground, and he's failing again. So I'm like, okay, well, Graves is gonna start building up, and then all of a sudden, Kamara hit this double leg, boom, like right halfway through the round, and just put him down and had him down. And I was like, all right, now he finally got him down. He finally secured, and then you could tell his confidence started to build.
Yeah.
And the second half is Kamara was doing really well, and then he got his back taken, and then I thought, okay, well that might put a button on it, and I thought, okay, well he'll win the fight now because he's got his back. Even if he doesn't choke him, it's the most dominant position in the entire fight, the most significant thing in the entire fight. And then when he got shaken off and he was on his back for 30 seconds, he did nothing. He looked like he was gassed out, and we always talk about this too, body language. You can go in there and beat the crap out of somebody for a round, and if he jumps up and runs back to his corner like this, and you drag yourself off the mat, there will be judges go, well, maybe he wasn't doing as well as I thought he was doing. And that, falling out and just getting stuck there and not even trying to get up, and just that did not look good. And I think that's what ultimately lost him the round.
Well said, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you thought I should have gone 3? Is that what you're saying?
I would have liked to see 3. I actually thought Graves edged him out in both rounds, but now watching it again, I thought it could go either way.
I'm kind of I thought it was 19-19. It was. I'm for judges. If you have a round like that first round where there's not, don't be afraid of a 10-10. That's my personal opinion. I think people are way too afraid of 10-10 rounds. Why judge a round that same way? If there's more action in the next round, you only get a point. That's the whole judging history that there's issues with. But don't be afraid of 10-10 rounds, because it's just, if neither guy is really showing any aggressiveness, then okay, it's an even round. That's my opinion.
What do you think, Mr. Coach, next to me about that?
You know, I think there could be more 10-10s, but here's the biggest thing I think which they're starting to do. There's actually a movement, and you're hearing them talk about it, like not just they're in judges' seminars, and they do a lot of training. They meet after fights, and they talk about why did you score it this way, and they do that sort of stuff after every fight. And there's a lot more talk now about 10-8 rounds because it's based on boxing, and in boxing, the only way to get a 10-8 round is a knockdown. You get a knockdown, it's a 10-8 round. You get another knockdown, it's a 10-7 round. Well, a knockdown in MMA is one knockdown could happen. You can get knocked down 4 or 5 times, and so it's not gonna be a 10-1 round because you got knocked down. And then what happens if I take you down and get on your back? Isn't that equivalent? If I have a choke in and you take 2 minutes to get out of the choke, isn't that equivalent to a knockdown? That's a near finish. If I've got you in something. If I'm taking you down and slamming you all day long and I just keep smashing you and you're not doing anything, or I mount. I mean, if you get mount or back with hooks in and I'm just pounding on you, even if I don't finish it, that's the most dominant position you can get on the ground. So that's, to me, is equal to a knockdown. So we need to either start scoring 10-8s and 10-7s more liberally or start not scoring 10-10s. And I think it's the other way around. I think if somebody wins the round, it's a 10-9. If you decisively win the round, it's a 10-8.
Yeah.
If you dominate, maybe it's a 10-7.
I agree.
You know?
That'd be more fun going in that direction because you have a little more variety, and boxing has started to do that as well. If a guy really gets his butt whooped in a round, I've seen plenty of 10-8s.
Yeah.
They kind of go that way too. So
we saw 10-8 in the last UFC. Paige Van Zandt, they 2 judges I think gave her a 10-8. Dominating, and it wasn't like she was close to finishing, but she just dominated.
Felice.
And they gave her a 10-8, and I think that's, think if they had been doing that back when Frankie Edgar fought Gray Maynard, that would have been a 10-5 that one round. I mean, he got knocked pretty much unconscious like 8 times in that first round. It's like, and what was it, a 10-9? I mean, it's crazy.
That's
it's like, how is that? So
are we doing predictions today?
We can. You know what? I'd be interested to hear what these guys.
Let's do it. Let's roll it.
Think about what's
little
ahead.
predictions.
Ooh,
That's right.
Your
Halloween?
AfterBuzz TV.
So we've got 7 other fighters that haven't been chosen. Was there anyone? And we'll start with you, Eric. Was there anyone on the show last night that you think would be a nice couple fighters to fight next, or what fight would you like to see next?
I wanted to see I think his name was George with the big beard, kind of big guy.
Oh yeah,
gladiator looking guy.
Grillo is his nickname. Yeah,
I wanted to see him actually on the next fight to see how he would do.
Yeah. He was like the silent warrior. He didn't say anything the whole episode.
It's hard to know unless you know anything about all of these guys, right? I mean, I don't know. Do you know much about every single fighter?
No, I mean, I don't even remember who all of them were, and I don't remember meeting all of them. I mean, or like really getting into who all.
They didn't.
I don't. I mean, I know Steve Carl. I've seen Steve Carl fight. There's a few guys that I've seen fight. That I know are good fighters, and some of them I've never heard of. So I felt that I didn't really get anything enough to know
much of an intro on them.
Yeah, although you gotta love a guy with the name Creepy.
That's right. I mean, I want to see Creepy next.
He's the early fame.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
How creepy is he? That's what I want to know.
I'm predicting we're not far from a KO. You know what I mean? Like you're going to get some kind of mismatch. It's coming soon.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You have to realize 7. I mean, these are big teams. Well, I don't know. Black Stallions is as big. ATT is big. But I mean, if we had to pull from our gym, we've got 35 fighters. If I could maybe pull 5 135ers. I couldn't get 7 170s at this level. And if I did, 2 of them would be people that probably shouldn't be in there. So it's like, maybe ATT can. I don't know. How does I mean, unless they went and we're going to do the show, so they went to other teams and brought people in. I'm sure they had to do that. But if you had to actually pull 7 top level 170s that aren't already in the UFC from your gym, you're not getting 7 or 8, or I guess it's 8. Yeah, so it's like
there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions that are going to be answered, and with this point system, it's going to be great. I can't wait for the rest of this season.
Yeah,
this is going to be fun. And maybe we'll see the coaches throw down, or the owners throw down.
Well, Dana did hint last night on the Fox Sports 1 Tough Talk that you may or may not see them kind of go at it.
We'll
not
see.
like an official fight, but kind of
Like get into his face.
yeah.
That would be bad. That would be bad for Glenn.
Something.
Yes.
Let's just say that would be very bad for Glenn.
If there's money on the line, hey, get in the ring. Get in the octagon. We're going to wrap up. Don't forget about iTunes. You can download us on iTunes. Tell your friends about the show. Hashtag ABTVTough. And then where can they find all you guys on social media?
On Twitter, you can get me on Archundia92, ARCHUNDIA 92. That'll be my personal Twitter. And on Facebook, you can also find me on my profile page, The Ghost Pepper, Erick Gonzalez with CK.
Love it. And I'm at Suri Serano on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope.
Everything for me is at Comediocre, which is like comedy and mediocre mixed together. Comediocre.
I love it.
So
that's easy.
Yes.
And I'm Jared Gilkerson. You can find me at Gilkerson Radio. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.